Hello, everybody. So hopefully, well, first of all, welcome to the webinar called 8 Productivity Hacks for Language Teachers.
Hello, everybody. So
hopefully you can all hear me.
Well, first of all, welcome to...
Everybody, we just seem to have a little bit of an issue with the sound, so I'm just going to deal with that now. Okay. So, sorry about that. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Just for people who are joining, getting signed on, I put some of my details on the right-hand side. So you've actually got all my email details there, and you can get in touch with me if you need to. I just want to check everybody if the actual chat icon is working okay. So could you, if you can hear me okay, could you just type something into the group chat function on the side for me, please? Just check if that's working okay. Okay, can anyone hear me correctly on the, if anyone can type into the group chat? No? Okay, let me just try again with something. Bear with me for 1 second, please. Oh, okay, someone can. Okay, Milovica. Yeah, hello. Hi. So you can hear me okay, correct? Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, fantastic. Milovica, I see we're waiting for quite a few people yet to turn up to the webinar. So what I'm going to do is maybe give people about another 5 or so minutes, just so that we don't go through a lot of information that people, obviously, if they come late, they wouldn't be able to pick up. So we'll just maybe give it about another 5 minutes, and then we'll get started, if that's okay with you. Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So I'll be back in about another minute or two. Okay, everybody. So let's get onto the webinar if we can all begin and get ready. So hopefully everyone can hear me. Milovica, we were just speaking a few minutes ago, so hopefully you can as well. I'm broadcasting today from Bratislava. It's in Slovakia, so Milovica, not too far away from where you are. I can see Glyn has joined the group. Glyn, I believe you're in Spain, if that's correct. Oh, no? Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's a little bit further away. Okay, so basically today's topic is 8 productivity hacks for language teachers. So the primary aim of this presentation is to look at things that I've learned over the years. I've been teaching English now for about 12 years. And over that time, I've had a chance to find out some tips and tricks that I believe can probably save us all time as teachers and will make our lives a lot easier. So what I'm going to do without further ado is just screen share my presentation with you. Before we do start though, just for the people that have joined, obviously, on the right-hand side, we've got the chat icon. So hopefully if you can all see what I'm seeing, you should be able to leave any comments in there. And at the end of the presentation, I will try to answer all of your questions. So if I don't answer anything as we're going along, don't take it personally, but I'll try to answer your questions as quickly as I can. Also, this is my very first webinar, everybody. So I am a little bit nervous today, so hopefully you can bear with me. Very first time I'm doing this, so it's a bit of a trial and error for me today. So if I make any mistakes, you know who to shoot. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just going to share the presentation with you anyway, and we'll see how we go. Okay. All right, so you should see what I see, hopefully. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you can all see this. As we said, we're talking about some productivity hacks. So just to give you a bit of an overview, first of all, about me. It's probably a good idea just to sort of talk about where I came from, really. So for those of you, Milovica, maybe I think we connected on LinkedIn some time ago. So you probably have an idea of the type of things I've been doing. But I primarily taught in company for about 12 years. I taught in large multinational companies to English, to directors, managers, receptionists, so anyone and everybody. And more recently, I transitioned into teaching business English again, but at universities. So I'm actually based in Bratislava, but I do travel a lot to Vienna in Austria, and also a few other cities in the Vienna area. So at the moment, I've got a couple of other projects that I do as well. So I work, I'm actually working to become a Cambridge oral and written examiner. And I have another project that I'm involved with a few friends, and we're trying to develop an ed tech product, so an educational technology designed at helping people remember more vocabulary in English. So that's a little bit about me, and do feel free to ask anything if you've got any questions on. So a little bit more tonight towards the topic of our presentation about productivity and being effective. And when I worked on this presentation, I was really trying to think about a lot of the pain points that I had, a lot of the problems I had as a teacher. And I found out that part of the problem I had, particularly in my early days of teaching, was a lack of time and having a lot of admin to deal with, having to deal with lesson preparation for multiple groups and different levels of language learners. This was just really, really difficult to really deal with all of this all at once. So I also had very little time to investigate new technology or resources and try them out because I was doing a lot of teaching at the time. And the idea of this event really is to try and provide a platform to share ideas. So by no means what I'm talking tonight is expert advice, I would say. I'm definitely learning all the time, as I think most of us are. It's definitely what I mention here tonight. There's definitely room for discussion on any of the topics that I will cover. So just a little bit of admin before we get started. I would just like to say really, really importantly that I'm not being paid or affiliated by anyone to talk about any of these ideas that I've got. They're all open to discussion. And as I mentioned before, quite a lot of this is based on my own experiences. So my experience was, as I said at the start, an in-company freelance teacher. So these are things that I found that have worked for me throughout my career. But if you work in higher education or you work in an agency or even in publishing, you might find that you have a platform, for example, Moodle, which I also use at university. And some of the tools here might not be relevant, just depending on your situation. So that's just something to bear in mind. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about lesson planning, first of all. And over the years, this used to be a real nuisance for me to do it. I really hated planning lessons because it used to take me a lot of time. When I did my CELTA, it seemed like a huge undertaking. But then I did actually find, probably in about the last 2 years, I found these three really good resources that I would like to share with you. Now, you might know them, but you might not. And the first one is called Lesson Plans Digger. And this is basically a free resource. It's run by a lady in Poland, and she has developed her own in-company English lessons based on, often with a video. It starts with a video, and a lot of activities are based off of that video. So there's grammar, there's writing, there's group discussion. And what I particularly like about this this website is the fact that she not only does she cover sort of business English or different levels of learners, whether it's sort of from A1 to B2 to C1, but there's also an answer key on quite a lot of the lesson plans. So there's actually instructions of how to teach the lesson. There's a lesson plan and handouts that you can download, quite often in a PDF file, and also there's an answer key as well, which makes it quite useful. So that's a really good resource you should definitely look into if you don't know it already. Another one I like, I've been using this now for about the past 5 years, is a website called Esl Brains. So if you Google that, I am sorry I haven't pasted a link in on here, but if you do Google Esl Brains, this is a website that's really inspired by TED Talks. So for those of you who know TED, often it's very interesting ideas and business leaders that talk about a particular topic or theme. And then what ESL Brains have done is they've packaged that into an English lesson. So basically you have a video to watch with your students. There's often some vocabulary that you can look at. You can obviously pre-teach that, then maybe watch the video. And then after you've you watched the video, there's some questions and answers, and there's some discussion work that can be done. And what's quite good about ESL Brains is they also provide sort of extension activities. So this is good for sort of setting homework and things like that too. Okay. Okay, next is lesson stream. So about 3 years ago, I met a really interesting guy called Jamie Keddy, the guy who is the author of this website. And I met Jamie at an event in Barcelona. We were attending an ELT event together. And Jamie is actually the creator of a lot of video-based lessons, and he's a really big fan of YouTube. And he picks particular videos from YouTube and crafts lessons around them. And I urge really anyone watching this to go and check out Jamie Keddy's work, because he is a really inspiring character. There's a book which is also available with this. Maybe I can actually just show you the book, because I do think I have a copy here. And maybe you can see this as well. 1 second. Oh, actually, no, I realized I don't have it in my bag. No, okay, it doesn't matter. But anyway, never mind. So basically, the book is a really good tool to use as an accompaniment to this website. So as I said, Jamie Keddy really focuses on video-based lessons. It looks at the lessons from a much different angle, probably than conventional lesson planners. And yeah, it's something definitely worth checking out. So Lesson Stream is the website, and the book is called Video Telling, which is available on Amazon. Okay, hack number 2. Well, I can say a big problem, I think, for most teachers maybe is getting students to write. And often a challenge I struggled with in the past was actually sort of saying, okay, students, right, we're going to write an email, or you need to write a letter to a friend, and these types of activities that were often very, very boring. So I was looking for ways probably about 3 or 4 years ago to look at really how we could use writing or make writing more fun in the classroom. And one site, or I mean, actually this is called an app, but it's not really an application. It's a website called the Most Dangerous Writing App. And the whole idea is that students type continuously for as long as they can about any topic. So probably before you would assign this in a class, it's a good idea to get sort of brief students on what they're going to do, get them to find the website, prepare a topic they'd like to talk about, maybe something they're familiar with or something they've recently studied. And then the idea really with this is that they type. If they stop, they lose all of their work. So it puts a bit of pressure on the students. It forces them into a challenge. I can tell you that I've actually tried this out with a couple of my groups. I would not recommend doing this for weak learners. So anyone sort of around the A1, A2 level, it probably wouldn't be suitable. But for B1, B2 levels, it's actually a lot of fun. So I can recommend this. The address is simply themostdangerouswritingapp.com in case you want to use that in class. There are other variations of this. So if you Google the Most Dangerous Writing App, you'll probably find other variations or varieties of this too. So yeah, it's something worth looking into. Okay, another hack I really like. I don't know if any of you know Padlet, but I've been using Padlet for a while now, and I like it because I can organize all of my materials that I use in one place. So this is just a screenshot, actually, everybody. So it's not you probably can't see everything that I've got on here, but it will give you a good idea of how I organize my materials. So For example, I've got this listed into subcategories. I've got giving feedback, vocabulary, audio, visual, and so on, and many different things. So over the years, or over the months that I teach, I basically add all of the applications or websites that I particularly like, and I put them into a Padlet, basically. So it's really like a notepad, and you can keep everything there pretty organized. So for example, when you go onto Padlet, you can click on an item, and you can also, for example, access it directly from there. So you might notice I've got the most dangerous writing app here. I've got Kahoot. I don't know if anyone knows about Kahoot, but that's a really good online quiz game that people can use. I use Google, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, Google Sheets and Google Documents to keep track of my student progress. I also do a bit of online teaching as well. So I have some websites I use for obviously doing online lessons. So some resources here. And then I've got some video conferencing tools, so sort of Google Hangouts and Zoom as well. So I've got a few things there. So that's useful just to keep things organized and tidy. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it certainly works for me as a tool to use. Okay, so a couple of things that I think are useful. Really, I started to get into using a lot of the Google tools about 3 years ago. I started using a lot of the Google documents for assigning homework. I have to be honest with you, I don't use it so much now because I will be working at universities. I have Moodle, so I can actually work a lot of the tools in there. But for my freelance work or for anyone I teach privately, I tend to still use Google tools quite regularly. So things like the Sheets for logging attendance. I use Google Slides for PowerPoint presentations, or if I'm communicating a particular point. I use this online, but also in class too. And of course, Google Drive. And I have a Google Drive account with most of my students for sharing assignments, information, and so on, if they want to upload anything there or if I assign anything in class. So Google is definitely something that if you don't use it, it's a really useful tool to use. And the best thing of all is it's absolutely free. So that's quite helpful as well. Okay, another little hack that I've learned over the years is fillers for fast finishers. Now, I think we've all been there. We've all had people, we've assigned an exercise in class, probably about 5 people are still working on it, but you've got 2 people that finish early and you're thinking, what can I do? What can I do with these people? Now, over the years, I used to keep little extra activities in my bag and give them to the students in class, but then I was always left with the problem of having to check the work, or often these students felt, well, if you've given me work to do, you need to check that work. And then you've got the problem because the other people then who are finished have to wait. And that can be really, really annoying and quite difficult to manage, particularly if you've ever had classes with a mixture of weak and high-level learners. That can be difficult. So a couple of things I do, and I've learned over the years, is I will send this link after the webinar, but you can see it here. And it's actually for the British Council in Spain. I actually did find this online. I don't think there's any privacy policy on it. But it's basically an ideas for warmers and fillers. And do feel free to have a look at that and choose anything that you would feel would work for your language learners, basically. I found a few in there that work for me. Not everything's good, not everything works for me, but there's quite a few small nuggets of information that I think would be useful for fast finishers and things like this. 2 other things I do is I also sometimes get students, particularly if you've got a pair that finish together and you've assigned pair work, I often get them to have a conversation between an object in the room. Now, this might sound really, really strange, but the idea is you've got to get your students to be a little bit imaginative and write the conversation in the format of a WhatsApp message. So what I sometimes do, I carry a little alarm clock with me, and I give them 5 minutes to think about a conversation they could have with an object in that room in the form of a WhatsApp message. I found that works really well with students who are young adults, teens. I don't know if it would really be ideal for in-company students, but I've done it at university and it has worked really well. It's definitely filled some time in. And you can give them some feedback at the end about that activity, have a quick look at their work as well. Also, another one that I use is describing a day in the life of someone they admire. And you can do that in a number of different ways. But what I tend to do is get them to put it in the form of a WhatsApp message, and imagine they're having a conversation with a friend about someone they admire, maybe someone they've seen on TV, or someone in the media that they really like. So that's one idea. Okay, we're getting through the presentation a little bit now. One thing I also do is especially with younger level learners, I really like to encourage people to be autonomous, to develop some kind of level where students go off and do things on their own. And it's not always you as a teacher who has to keep feeding information, keep providing context for them. So often what I do encourage students to do is to use Quizlet, the Quizlet app, and to create their own word sets from topics that we've been looking at. And I get them to review this in pairs every, probably, let's say, for 5 to 10 minutes. And I do that every 2 lessons as well. Just this very summer, I was teaching a lady business English. She wanted very specific language for presentations. She does a lot of presentations in her work, and I was coaching her really because she's already a very strong B2 and I'd say a lower level C1. And she just wanted to be coached a little bit more with specific vocabulary for presentations and having meetings. So we did this. I actually asked her to go away and form her own Quizlet sets based on words that she thought were useful and she could use in the future. And then we quizzed that basically at the start of every lesson. And that worked really, really well because she was taking responsibility for her own learning. And that's certainly something we need to encourage our students to do. Another nice little tip is, particularly if you've got larger groups, is encouraging students to compile some quiz questions that they could ask themselves. I've seen this done in 1 or 2 places. And what you can ask your students to do is to write some questions which can be handwritten. So you don't get them to type this or to record it, but ask them to handwrite their questions, maybe nominate 2 students, as I said, and then you can put them into a quiz. And the next time you can obviously look at these and see what the student's written, but the next time you can obviously test the whole class on these questions that the students actually chose. So this is a really nifty way to get the students to take a bit of responsibility for their own learning. Another thing I do is I often get students to, particularly with my university students, we have to do a lot of presentation work anyway, but I often get them to present topics that they can speak about for 5 minutes, but then they have to think of either 5 to 10 powerful questions for the class. So the idea is that they don't just present something, which a lot of people can do, but they need to actively encourage some kind of dialogue. So for higher level learners, particularly people in companies, this is a really good thing to do. Okay, so last few things now, and then we'll take a bit of a break, and I'll have a look at any questions you posted. Is using Adobe Spark. I found this really useful tool over the summer for creating presentations and having videos. Adobe Spark is basically like a PowerPoint, but it's online. And There's probably good points and bad points about Adobe Spark, but what I like about it is that you can actually design the presentations, you can make them look quite pretty, but it's something that I think is very, very easy for students to use. So there's nothing too revolutionary about Google Spark, but what I would say, and I do beg my pardon, it's not Google Spark, but Adobe Spark rather, that it's something that students could use when they're doing presentations in class and things like this. Okay, very, very, very finally, because I'd like to wrap up soon, and I'm sure all of us want to be getting off and enjoying our evenings, is collaboration. I think it goes without saying that a lot of the ways or the tips and tricks I've learned over the years have gone from collaborating with people, with colleagues. And I tend to stay informed. I read journals like eltjam.com. They have a really good blog. They talk a lot about technology in English language teaching, but they talk about many other topics as well. And EFL magazine as well gives you a lot of topics for how to maybe use tools in the classroom, maybe time-saving techniques, as well as lots of other things related to the world of ELT. And definitely something like that is it's useful to check these two resources out, if not any more. So that actually brings us to the end of our webinar tonight. I'd just like to sort of ask a question, really, because in the future, I would like to maybe look at organizing events around what people would like to hear about. And I didn't mention this before at the start, but a lot of what I did, I've also done is I've taught English online. So I've taught languages to people in Slovakia, but also in different countries. And I've discovered what works, what doesn't work. And I'd obviously like to share that with people who'd like to know more about getting into the online teaching world. But also a couple of other things that teachers and teacher friends of mine have mentioned to me is how to teach language in a digital age with all the tools we've got, and also developing your own materials and sharing them legally. These are topics that a lot of people have mentioned to me they would like to hear a lot more about. So what I'd like to do is put together a survey to the people who've attended tonight, maybe other people as well, about what you'd like to hear about for future events. These events can be online, it can be a webinar, it can be face-to-face. So hopefully you are, and please let me know if you don't want to be emailed in the future. I promise I won't spam you. The last thing I want to do is bother anyone. But if you are interested to sort of stay in touch and you found tonight's short webinar useful, then hopefully you'd like to know more, and I can send you the survey. So my contact details at the bottom, my email, my Twitter handle at BFluentEnglish, and do feel free to stay in touch. Okay. Okay, so everybody, welcome back. So yeah, so that concludes the webinar. I'm just going to have a look at the. I'm just going to have a look here at some of the comments that came through. I see some people had a problem with the screen share. It looked like it was stuck. I do apologize for that. So what we will do is I will actually email you a copy of the presentation anyway, everybody, and you can hopefully get through it. As I said, this is my very, very first webinar, everybody, so I do really apologize if there are any technical issues. Hopefully the next one will be smoother. I'm just going to take a look at some of the questions here, and let's have a look. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to look at Gabriella's, first of all, came through at 6:15. Is this writing app only for English lessons, or would it work with other languages too? Gabby, that's a really good question. I've only used it for English lessons, but I'm sure it would work for other languages. The only issue would be I am not sure how it would work with the characters. I'm thinking, especially where I am in my part of the world with Slovak, Czech, and also Hungarian, I'm not sure if all the characters will be supported, but I guess that depends on your keyboard. So it might be possible. Yeah, okay, so if it's working, that's great. So yeah, I don't see any reasons why it should just be limited to English. Okay. Let me have a look. Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Spark is great for short video creation. Also discovered it myself the other day. Yeah, that's great. It's a really useful tool. Glenn, would be interested to hear your advice and experience on online teaching. Yeah, Glenn, definitely. I'm actually this weekend, I'm going to Vienna to do a presentation on this. And based on the survey that I send out, if anyone is interested in hearing more, there are a lot of people that actually signed up to this webinar tonight but didn't come, I think, because of commitments. But when I send that survey out, if there's enough interest, I'll certainly be running another webinar on teaching English online. There's actually a lot to talk about there, and it's definitely not a topic to talk about for just 1 hour. It's a very extensive topic, and I've had to learn a lot of lessons to begin teaching English online. I learned the hard way. I made a lot of mistakes, but eventually I managed to do a number of things, and I now teach English online, and it seems to be running smoothly. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm having a look, Milivid. So do you probably know any tool for collaborative learning for activities such as creating a vocabulary? That's a good one. I would probably say collaboratively. I mean, I've only ever used Quizlet, Milivica, so I'm not sure if that, yeah, Glenn, you just posted Quizlet live. That I've never tried it myself, so I don't want to lie to you. I suggest maybe trying that out, and maybe that could work, but I've never done it myself. Okay, okay, you use it in Moodle, yeah, okay. Let's have a look at any other questions. I'm just scrolling up here, everybody. Okay. Okay, I think that's it, everybody. I think that is it. Okay, Gabby, yeah. Last point. What's Moodle? Okay, Moodle is basically it's like an online platform where you you assign your classes. You have details of your students there. You have information where you can, for example, upload lesson plans. You can upload content that your students can view. They can also submit homework there. The thing with Moodle is it's primarily used in higher education. I've not actually seen it being used outside of that. If you're interested in using, yeah, that's true, Milivid. So I think you do need a server for it, and that's where it gets a bit tricky. So that's why I think most sort of private or freelance teachers don't use it. What is actually a good resource, everybody, is a platform called Off to Class. In fact, I will just type it, offtoclass.com. And I use this, and it's actually great because you have a platform for uploading your lessons. You have a lot of lessons there that you can use, and you have an account that is very specific to your needs. So definitely something worth checking out if you do a lot of private work. It's mainly focused towards online teaching, but it can be used offline too. Okay, Gabby, I see you're saying probably not for me as I work with business people, but interesting. Yeah, yeah, Moodle is probably more, as I said, I've only ever seen it used in higher education. I've not seen it used anywhere else. So maybe you need to develop something very much custom made, but it would be an interesting thing to find out if there is a tool or a platform that's actually more suitable for private language lessons. Is the Google Classroom alternative? Ooh, Glenn, I honestly, I've never used Google Classroom at all. No, I couldn't compare. I am sorry on that one. Okay, everybody. So I think we can wrap it up. If there's any more questions, I can stay online for a little bit longer. But hopefully I've answered everything tonight, everybody. As I said, you can get in touch with me. I'll send an email to all of you that attended with the presentation slides. And I hope it's been useful, everybody. As I said, it was my first webinar, so I was incredibly nervous tonight. I hope it's been useful and there's some nuggets of information that you can take away. So thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for the comments. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for the feedback. So yeah, thank you very much. If there's anything else, feel free to contact me. And we'll stay in touch and hopefully do a few more of these events. Okay, everybody, thank you and have a good evening. Okay, bye-bye now. Bye. Excellent.